Hello once again, and welcome to the program. I am Suren. Question: Are you alive? I truly hope so. Surely you know that you are living on a planet called Earth. And on Earth, your time is divided into 24 hours a day. However, do you feel that you are alive every day? Do you have time to live? You see, I have known people who have no time to live, for they always say they have no time for this or for that, and for the other thing. You see, they have no time for anything. They have no time to have a holiday, for example. They have no time even to worry about healing a certain ailment, which can be done in almost no time. They have no time to worry about this or the other thing, or people, no matter who they are in their lives. They seem to be always pressed for time, or they pretend. Are you one of them? Do you feel that the days are too short? Are you annoyed that the weeks are also very short for you? They seem to disappear before you know where they have gone. All your days seem to be getting shorter and shorter. It seems that you are limiting yourself in using the waking hours for productivity, like millions of others. You believe that the power of thinking, conscious or superconscious, limited to those waking hours only. Even if you were an Albert Einstein with the ability to get by on only a few short hours of sleep a day, you are able to use time productively, not more than 20 hours of your day. Do you think that you are alone in understanding how little time there is? Even if you could use all 24 hours every day? However, when and if you would utilize the powers of the superconscious, you could perhaps use all 24 hours in each and every day productively, positively, creatively. Just imagine now what your gain could be like. Wouldn't you say that it would be phenomenal? Your life could be made 33% longer. Do you believe me? Yet this may be the very first step toward accomplishing the lifetime of limitlessness. On the average, people sleep 8 hours a day, correct? Imagine now that you could make use of that 8 hours continuously. You would most certainly meet an immediate gain of 1 whole day in every 3. Imagine, you could earn a lot more than 2 whole days in every week. You could use months exclusively, which are 40 instead of 30 days long. Furthermore, you could increase each year of your life to 16 months. The advantages of this new time power are endless, and your gains can be limitless. What is the great secret in extending your time and your life, would you say? Is there a formula that you can buy or acquire? No, not at all. The secret of time is already within you. You possess it right now, and you are ready to use it if you have learned the lessons. Your waking hours have now been added to your productivity, health, and happiness by the simple utilization of your superconscious powers. However, those powers seem not to be with you all the time, but only during your waking hours. No, indeed it is not so, as they are with you all the time. 33% bonus in your life you can take for yourself is those hours of bodily sleep. That wonderful machine in your skull needs a little rest. All it asks and needs is fuel. It needs to be fed regularly and well. When one sleeps, its period of dormancy is infinitesimal. Unlike your physical body, it is capable of going for days without any rest whatsoever. Most of us humans let all that fallow field lie dormant for 1/3 of our lives. Even if part of that time it does not lie dormant, it seems that we have not yet recognized the fact that our brains are working longer hours than we are, and that we should tap that source of wonderful time power. The secret of time is what we can term as sleep thinking. A well-known psychologist once wrote of his even more famous, well-known brother. He goes to sleep at night thinking about a problem and wakes up with the right answer. That psychologist is Dr. Herman Baruch, and his brother is Bernard Baruch. He owns this well-trained mind and uses this time power, is a multimillionaire and advisor to the presidents, as he was. One of the most outstanding demonstrations of sleep thinking is found in the descriptions given by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you have heard of him, of how he developed his super sense, which he called the sixth sense. In his book, which I recommend highly, Think and Grow Rich, he writes, somewhere in the cell structure of the brain is located an organ which receives vibrations of thought, ordinarily called hunches. So far, science has not discovered where this organ of the sixth sense is located. But this is not so important at the moment. The fact remains that the human beings do receive accurate knowledge through sources other than the physical senses. Such knowledge generally is received when the mind is under the influence of extraordinary stimulation. We have discovered that the organ which Hill refers to is that segment of the brain called the thalamus. It receives thought vibrations, which Hill calls hunches, and which we know as our manifestations of the supersense. We also know that the rate of vibration, or the frequency levels of the thalamus, can be greatly accelerated by the technique of visualization, or that is, visualization process for stimulating the mental activity called creative imagination. Hill's method of cultivating creative imagination is very unique and effective. Just before falling into a state of sleep every night, he would shut his eyes and create a mental picture. And this picture, which he would see in his imagination, was a group of prominent men of past history. The men would gather to act as a mystic council of invisible counselors. The group included people like Waldo Emerson, Thomas Paine, Thomas Edison, Charles Darwin, Abraham Lincoln, Luther Burbank, Napoleon Bonaparte, Henry Ford, and Andrew Carnegie. Every night, over the period of many years, he held an imaginary council meeting with this illustrious group. And this is how he describes one of the meetings. He says, "I had a very definite purpose in indulging my imagination through these nightly meetings. My purpose was to rebuild my own character that would represent a composite of the characters of my imaginary counselors. Realizing, as I did early in life, that I had to overcome the handicap of birth in an environment of ignorance and superstition, I deliberately assigned myself the task of voluntary rebirth through the method here described. Being an earnest student of psychology, I knew, of course, that all men have become what they are because of their dominating thoughts and desires. I knew that every deeply seated desire has the effect of causing one to seek outward expression through which that desire may be transmuted into reality. I knew that self-suggestion is a powerful factor in building character. That it is, in fact, the principle through which character is built. With this knowledge of the principles of mind operation, I was fairly well armed with the equipment needed in rebuilding my character. In these imaginary council meetings, I called on my cabinet members for the knowledge. I wished each to contribute, addressing myself to each member in audible words as follows. Mr. Emerson, I desire to acquire from you the marvelous understanding of nature, which distinguished your life. I ask that you make an impress upon my subconscious mind of whatever qualities you possessed, which enabled you to understand and adapt yourself to the laws of nature. I ask that you assist me in reaching and drawing upon what sources of knowledge are available to this end. Mr. Burbank, I request that you pass on to me the knowledge which enabled you to harmonize the laws of nature, that you caused the cactus to shed its thorns and become an edible food. Give me access to the knowledge which enabled you to make 2 blades of grass grow where but one grew before, and helped you to blend the coloring of the flowers with more splendor and harmony, for you alone have successfully gilded the lily. Napoleon, I desire to acquire from you, by emulation, the marvelous ability you possessed to inspire men and to arouse them to greater and more determined spirit of action. Also, to acquire the spirit of enduring faith, which enabled you to turn defeat into victory and to surmount staggering obstacles. Emperor of fate, King of chance, Man of destiny, I salute you. Mr. Darwin, I wish to acquire from you the freedom of thought and encourage and clarity with which to express convictions, which so distinguished you. Mr. Lincoln, I desire to build into my own character the keen sense of justice, the untiring spirit of patience, the sense of humor, the human understanding, and the tolerance, which were your distinguishing characteristics. Mr. Carnegie, I'm already indebted to you for my choice of a life work, which has brought me great happiness and peace of mind. I wish to acquire a thorough understanding of the principles of organized effort, which you used so effectively in the building of a great industrial enterprise. Mr. Ford, you have been among the most helpful of the men who have supplied much of the material essential to my work. I wish to acquire your spirit of persistence, determination, poise, and self-confidence, which have enabled you to master poverty, organize, unify, and simplify human effort, so I may help others to follow in your footsteps. Mr. Edison, I have seated you nearest to me at my right because of the personal cooperation you have given me during my research into the causes of success and failure. I wish to acquire from you the marvelous spirit of faith with which you have uncovered so many of nature's secrets, the spirit of unremitting toil with which you have so often wrested victory from defeat. My method of addressing the members of the imaginary cabinet would vary according to the traits of character in which I was, for the moment, most interested in acquiring. I studied the records of their lives with painstaking care. After some months of this nightly procedure, I was astounded by discovery that these imaginary figures became apparently real. Whether or not Mr. Hill has the right answer to the phenomenon of sleep thinking, there has been placed before you sufficient evidence in the following programs. You will discover that somewhere in the cell structure of the brain is located an organ which receives vibrations of thought, ordinarily called hunches. This faculty is the supersense. Mr. Hill says he's not a believer in, nor an advocate of, miracles, for the reason he has enough knowledge of nature to understand that nature never deviates from her established laws. Some of the natural laws are so incomprehensible, says Mr. Hill, that they produce what appear to be miracles. Mr. Hill says that supersense comes as near to being a miracle as anything I have ever experienced, and appears so only because I do not understand the method by which this principle is operated. Mr. Hill says there is one thing he does know, that there is a power or a first cause or an intelligence which permeates every atom of matter and embraces every unit of energy perceptible to man. Mr. M. Germain further exclaims that this infinite intelligence converts acorns into oak trees, causes water to flow downhill in response to the law of gravity, follows night with day and winter with summer, each maintaining its proper place and relationship to the other. This intelligence may, through the principles of this philosophy, be induced to assist in transmuting desires into concrete or material forms. Mr. Hill further says he has this knowledge because he has experimented with it and has experienced it. A well-known psychologist once said, "There is a deep tendency in human nature to become precisely like that which you habitually imagine yourself to be." Apropos of this, Mr. Hill said that he had the very definite purpose of rebuilding his own character as it might represent a composite of the characters of his imaginary counselors. The reason of autosuggestion as employed by Mr. Hill in preparation for sleep thinking literally works wonders, as explained fully before. Having grasped the full significance of these considerations, you can now see the true meaning of such phenomena called spiritism. Had the late author Edward Stilwell only comprehended the marvelous mechanism of the superconscious, instead of interpreting the experiences of his great gift in terms of spirits, what a boon his life might have been to education and, through public instruction, to faltering humanity. When people do not understand a phenomenon in the general category of extrasensory perception, or ESP, they are prone to call the incident a miracle and attribute it to some supernatural cause. This is exactly what Arthur Stilwell did. He used his supersense to attain fame and fortune. This he managed to do through the medium of sleep thinking. But he insisted, till the day he died, that spirit guides were responsible for most of his extraordinary achievements. Now, Arthur Stilwell was a sensitive and dreamy youngster, was still in his childhood when he acquired the habit of drifting into trance. In these self-induced hypnotic states, he received extra-normal knowledge, which he believed came from the spirit world. When he was 15, he learned during a sleep thinking session that in 4 years' time he would meet and marry a girl named Genevieve Wood. It was not long after his 19th birthday he met Jenny Wood at the church festival. After a brief courtship, they were married, just as his supersense has foretold. Following his marriage, he took a job as a clerk with a trucking company. The inspiring voices continued to counsel him during his sleep. During his sleep thinking, the advisors told him to go west and build a railroad. Arthur Stilwell was a farm boy. He had hardly finished high school. He knew little about business and nothing at all about financing, and especially about the railroading. Yet he felt impelled to venture westward under the continuous urging of his sleep-thinking advice. He quit his job and moved to Kansas City. He worked at various jobs. With the health that came to him from sleep thinking, his success was uncanny. At the age of 26, he began building his first railroad after having acquired the necessary financial backers. Believing that he was being guided by superior intelligence from a spirit world, Stilwell insisted on sleeping alone, to the bewilderment of his charming wife. It is related that when vexed by some engineering problem, he would place some drawing material on a table at his bedside. In the morning, he would recall exactly what his sleep thinking had told him, and details of the plans would be written on the paper. On an occasion, Arthur Stilwell was advised in a sleep-thinking session to build a railroad from Kansas City to the Gulf of Mexico. The logical terminus for the new line was Galveston, Texas. But the railroad tracks were led to a point only 50 miles from Galveston, and Stilwell had an unusually strange vision. In addition, he saw a great tidal wave engulf the city of Galveston, crushing buildings and drowning inhabitants. Having learned the value of heeding the promptings in his sleep thinking, he construed the vision as a warning not to use Galveston as a port terminal for his new railroad. Stilwell ordered the location of the rail line be changed. He directed that the terminus be at a new location, on which side was later built a city named Port Arthur in his honor. A few days after the completion of the railroad, indeed, a tidal wave swept up the Gulf Coast. The city of Galveston was devastated, just as Arthur Stilwell had seen in the preview of the terrible disaster during his sleep. Stilwell made millions of dollars. He lived a long, happy married life. He created everything according to spirit guides, which he thought advised him while he slept. From what we now know of the astounding reach, power, and wisdom of the superconscious level of the mind, there is no doubt that Stilwell actually had succeeded in tapping the extra-normal resources of superconscious while he slept. He benefited by using time power. As we discover, the sleep can be utilized for greater use of your productivity, if only you desire it. Time is yours to use. The secret is in visualization. Just before falling into the final state of sleep at night, you must imagine in your mind's eye whatever problem is facing you. This way, you can transmit it to the superconscious to answer your questions or solve those problems for you. The work your superconscious can accomplish is unlimited. The knowledge it can draw upon itself is universal. The answer it will give you to your problems are perfect. If your superconscious is working correctly, that is. One of the most successful ways of accomplishing the mental therapy that we considered before is during sleep. Indeed, perfect rest and recuperative slumber can be assured under almost any circumstances at the word of command from your conscious. Even dreams can be controlled in this way. If you are troubled by distressing dreams, the result of negativism, you can change their current and prevent them altogether by energetically commanding the superconscious to control this. It is especially effective in directing the superconscious to assist in the healing of some other person using the powers of the great gift during sleep. If you habitually do this at the time of going to sleep, you will not only be certain of obtaining recuperative sleep for yourself, you will also procure the contentment of peace of mind that always results from a consciousness of having done good for your fellow man. Exercising the power of the superconscious in this manner is never a tax upon your vital force. It always rebounds to your own benefit. The reason is obvious. The normal condition of the superconscious level of the mind while the conscious mind is asleep and the body is resting physically is that of increased activity. This is its technique of recuperation and building the body. If the activities of your superconscious are directed into pleasant channels, your bodily rest is perfect and your recuperative powers extended to their maximum levels. It is for this reason that mental therapy by means of sleep thinking is better for all concerned than any of the other methods of mental therapy known to mankind. By sleep thinking, you are following the pattern of nature. Nature employs the subjective powers at a time when they are normally active and at their best. This occurs when they are revitalizing the fatigued organs of the body and rebuilding their cellular structures. In acting on the command of the conscious mind, given just before falling asleep, the discordant impressions that too often disturb the sleeper and disrupt recuperation are overcome by the more potent suggestion. Your sleeping hours are the basis on the foundation of life limitless. Your sleeping hours are the source of time power, which in turn is the source of a vast increase in your living benefits. By developing your superconscious to the point where you can utilize sleep thinking, you are adding through time power, 1/3 again as much productive living as you now use at the maximum. There is only one rule you need to follow, that is to make time power work for you. Just before falling into the final state of sleep, every night, imagine in your mind's eye whatever problem is facing you. That is the rule for transmitting the superconscious to the superconscious that which you wish it to answer or solve the problems for you. This is the rule for bringing into play the wonderful gift of sleep thinking. Giving your day its due. With the lessons on self-suggestion and abilities you have now acquired or discovered in using your superconscious, you have reached the great step of increasing your life by time power. If you can utilize every one of your sleeping hours for superconscious thought and planning, you are giving yourself a bonus of extending your life by making every day truly at 24 hours a day. The gains of this new time are limitless once you use the powers of sleep thinking. There is only one simple rule to follow to utilize the time power. Just before you fall into your final state of sleep, at night, imagine in your mind's eye the problem to which you require a solution that you will transmit to your superconscious the necessary information for it to work on through the night. Thank you for watching, and we will meet again here by the next episode. In the meantime, keep smiling and be happy. Thank you.